Ah, so sleepy. Hinata was on the edge of a bottomless abyss, fighting against an almost irresistible temptation. Her life flashed before her eyes, the memories from her childhood to the present. Right, I remember now. When I was young, my father would spend time playing with me. Since she could only see the present, she had forgotten these important memories. In the past, Hinata once had a normal family. But everything went to hell when Hinata's father's company went bankrupt. Had father not strayed to devious ways, mother would not have gone insane. Hinata didn't have even the slightest intention of imagining just how much her father was suffering. That was why, even to this day, she still hated him. She lived in hatred, trying to escape from the unfortunate reality that was her family. Unable to forgive her father's sin, Hinata focused the blame on him to justify her own actions. The common trait in humans was that their hearts were weak. Her father was the same. Had the family supported each other, perhaps things would have ended differently. Perhaps it's laughable for someone like me to act all high and mighty about justice. Perhaps that's why I pursued the shadow of my father in that man. This sense of justice, regardless of if he denied it, she felt saved by his unbounded good-heartedness. Hinata's heart had struggled and was about to burst, until the one that brought enlightenment to her and put her at ease, had undoubtedly. With that being said, that was just what Hinata thought. He would probably be very troubled if she shared this sentiment with him. But sometimes she let herself dwell on this sweet and tempting possibility, that perhaps he would accept it. Wouldn't that make me just like what Grandbell said? After all this time, I still couldn't forgive myself. Realizing this, she felt rather melancholic. All her life, Hinata had been burdened by the thought that her actions were unforgivable. Had she not been the person she was, mother would not have felt sad. Even if she were to go back to her original world, no one would celebrate a return. That's why she decided to help as many people in this world instead. I want to save as many people as possible. This thought became Hinata's driving force. But I have grown tired. I just want to rest in this dark abyss. And slowly, Hinata's consciousness was devoured by darkness. Her senses disappeared, her doubts vanished, and she had no more regrets. You can't fall asleep. An intense call woke Hinata up. Is that Chloe? This thought brought Hinata back to reality. No, this was hardly what you'd call reality. Her circumstances were extremely peculiar. Through a window floating in midair, she could see the world outside. Or rather, she did not see through her eyes, but instead could feel it through her heart. That's because Hinata Onichan is inside me. What does that? Before Hinata could ask, she recalled what had happened to her. Right, I was struck by Grandbell, but am I not dead? As all her memories slowly came back, Hinata fell into a state of confusion. Even with her mathematician running at full capacity, she couldn't reach a logical answer. In fact, it was already a miracle that she was able to use her skill under these circumstances. I will explain everything to you. Just try and stay conscious. Now then, I hope you can synchronize with me. Synchronize. Yes, can you see a light ahead? Hearing this, Hinata concentrated her mind in the direction Chloe spoke of. Soon enough, she could see a dim light in the direction of her voice. Yes, over there. Hinata approached the light. It felt as if she was physically moving her body, while in reality, only her consciousness was moving forward. And then, the moment Hinata's consciousness came into contact with the light, her consciousness was tinged with rainbow light. A while later. Have you woken up? This is. Looks like you've stabilized. Here's the thing, Hinata Onichan. You can just call me Hinata. Got it. Here's the thing. Hinata is inside me, and my soul in particular. If not for this, Hinata would have been devoured by infinite prison. I think this is the first time that something like this has happened to you, so you must be confused, but this is all true. Hearing her words, Hinata began to understand her situation. She quickly realized the raised sun behind her not having a body, and that her soul was inside Chloe. And the infinite prison Chloe mentioned was the bottom of that dark abyss. And so, Hinata expressed her gratitude. I see, thanks for waking me up. Chloe explained many things to Hinata later. According to her, when Hinata was struck, her soul ended up in Chloe's. Normally, your soul would leave your body after death and slowly dissipate in the air. However, due to Hinata's soul interfering with Chloe's, it led to such an incredible event. This explanation alone was still not convincing enough for Hinata, but there was something else on her mind. Agitated, Hinata interjected. By the way, is Rimuru alright? What about Luminous-sama? What happened to Grandbell? However, Chloe remained calm. Please calm down and listen to me. This is the ancient here. Huh. Look there, can you see that mountain? Yeah, could that be the spirit hill of Mount Leor? But where is this? If going by geolocation, shouldn't this be the holy land of Lobelia? It was only natural for Hinata to feel confused. The only thing she could see was the vague summit of Mount Leor, far in the distance. Since there was nothing in the way, she could see things far away. Indeed, they were standing in an empty plain. However, to her knowledge, this should be a city. Yet there was nothing there. She wouldn't want to consider the other possibility that the city had been wiped out entirely due to the earth-shattering battle among powerful individuals. However, if that were the case, there wouldn't be any grass growing here. In other words, I know that it's a bit hard to believe, but I am not lying. Chloe was right. In short, this was the Holy Land, or where the Holy Land was meant to be in the future. Hinata and Chloe had traveled through time to the ancient era before the nation of Lubelius had even been born. It was said that Luminous would move her nation here in another 2,000 years or more from now. With that being the case, there's no way. Despite her realization, Hinata couldn't help her utterance. No way, this is way too strange, Hinata thought doubtfully. Chloe, how can you tell that this is the past? Indeed, that was her question. Even if Hinata was to accept something as ridiculous as time travel, how would Chloe know that this was the past? Wouldn't there also be a possibility that this was a future where everything was destroyed? Indeed, not only were there no buildings around, there was no trace of any human occupation either. Since there weren't any ruins, it was more likely to be the past. But even if that were the case, the ruins could be buried underground, so surely, she could not have concluded that it was the past. Yet, Chloe had spoken without hesitation. That was why Hinata was in doubt. Seeing Hinata's reaction, Chloe replied with a smile. It's simple. Because this isn't the first time I've been here. Every time I lost control over my power, I went back to the past. Since I've been to this place before, I remembered. Hinata thought to herself. She couldn't say anything out of shock. As she processed, she began to gradually accept Chloe's explanation and tried to understand the situation more. Well, I guess you will explain to me in detail what this is all about, right? Hinata asked, determined. Chloe's explanation was indeed very shocking to Hinata. It appeared that Chloe's skill involved time leaping. Emphasis on appeared because Chloe didn't know this too well herself, either. She mentioned that she couldn't consciously activate it. At most, she could recall some events from the past. However, that alone shouldn't be underestimated. This past was relative to Chloe's own experiences. And since she had been time leaping over and over, her version of the past included events in the linear future of the timeline. However, she couldn't seem to recall all her memories clearly. Human memories could be very ambiguous at times. One may not be able to recall what happened exactly at what time. It was especially so when having over 2,000 years' worth of memories. It was far too difficult to solve the issue. When did you awaken this power? Hinata asked. Chloe thought for a bit before answering. Well, when I was rescued by Rimuru-sensei. In order to stabilize me and the other children, Rimuru-sensei brought us to the dwelling of the spirits to host a spirit, but Chloe explained that the thing that had taken her as its host was not a spirit, but her power from the future. Somehow, her power was self-aware. I think I died in the future. That's why it seems to repeatedly come back to me at that point in time. In other words, the dwelling of the spirits is where your awakening starts. No, that's not it. At the time, I don't remember anything. But I will regain my memories the moment I go back in time. Then you've been repeating the same thing over and over. It seems to be the case. I can only remember the details from the last time I was here. Although, there are memories from different lives mixed up in there at times. I see, Hinata thought to herself. She was reassured by Chloe's words. If she had to repeat this over and over again, it would be hell. The human heart wasn't strong enough to continue fighting for the same result over and over. Hinata listened to Chloe's story in silence later on. Chloe would always travel back to the same era. Perhaps that was the limit of the time leap. As for the location she would be in, it seemed to be dependent on when Chloe lost control of her power. From her last memory, Hinata had died in the Great Jura Forest. Rimuru-sensei died, and Veldora was revived. Rimuru died. Killed by who? And how? How can anyone manage to kill that cockroach Rimuru? Well, after I accepted my future self from the dwelling of the spirits, my memories from before leaping back in time have changed a lot. After all, by the time my power went out of control at the church, Rimuru-san was still alive. This was possibly the best outcome I could hope for. Hinata noticed Chloe's address of Rimuru-san, but decided to ignore this detail to avoid interrupting her. She wanted to hear the rest. Chloe began to summarize key memories from the previous timeline after her visit to the dwelling of the spirits. After saving the children, Rimuru used spatial movement to return to Tempest. However, the timing of his opening the portal was a little different, so he never ran into Hinata. The other worlders who were about to invade Tempest were given a proper beatdown, sending a message to the nations around the Great Jura Forest that Tempest was a force to be reckoned with. Knowing how dangerous Rimuru was, no nation dared to move recklessly. However, since the kingdom of Pharmus remained intact, they began to increase their military reserves, as they observed Rimuru's nation closely. Something happened among the 10 great demon lords too, but as far as she knew, there were only rumors. Rimuru's relationship with the Grandmaster of the Freedom Association, Yuki, grew closer and closer, which allowed him to start communicating with other nations. However, due to the interference from the Kingdom of Pharmus, problems arose. Even with that being the case, Rimuru did not give up and tried many different things. The children's school was one of them. Staying at the school built by the Tempest Federation, Chloe and the kids studied alongside monster children just like in this timeline. However, things quickly took a turn for the worst. The Western nations, at the request of the Council, formed a fighting force led by Hinata to invade Tempest. Hinata. It was really scary. I'm really sorry then. It's alright. In the end, you managed to reach a peaceful conclusion. According to Chloe, in that timeline, Hinata and Rimuru's duel ended in a draw. It was due to the children's involvement, especially Chloe, that Hinata stopped. Hinata said that she would observe a bit more and made peace with Rimuru-san. At the time, Hinata had likely found that the whole thing was strange, so she began to investigate by herself. Her investigation revealed that the Kingdom of Pharmus was behind all this, and that was when she decided to believe in Rimuru. 5 years passed after that. Rimuru never became a demon lord. He had lived as the ruler of the Great Jura Forest, and led the same busy daily life as before. After making peace with Hinata, he established stronger relations with Lobilius as well. For some reason, Luminous kept an eye on Rimuru too, and peace was maintained. Chloe grew up to be very strong. She even became good friends with Milim, who occasionally dropped by to play. However, this peace didn't last. The fateful day arrived, the Empire began their invasion. I'd fallen in love with Rimuru-san at that time. I wanted to be selfish and told him not to go to the battlefield. The Empire was powerful and had many terrifying weapons. I didn't think he would win, but Rimuru-san smiled and said, "Don't worry, just leave it to me." In reality, he was also scared, but he still put on a brave front. He even gave me the mask. Shizu-sensei's. Yes. The one I gave her. This was an event that would happen in the future, yet at the same time, had already taken place in the past. It was a circle of repetition. Chloe continued the story. Rimuru never returned from the final battle, and the Tempest Federation fell. This was because Veldora had suddenly been resurrected. Enraged, Veldora rained chaos everywhere. As a result, the Empire's army was decimated. Afterward, Luminous, Hinata, Chloe, and the others fought together against Veldora, fearing that human society would be destroyed if he were not dealt with. But, before they could finish their battle with Veldora, Hinata was murdered by an unknown individual. Chloe saw a flash of light piercing through Hinata's chest, which triggered her ability. She was sent back in time, but could not remember what happened next.